Good evening, y'all. This is Spencer Keck with the Hillbilly Think Tank. I'm coming at you live from Tunnel Hills here in Hardin County, Kentucky, where I'm running for Magistrate District 3. Now, here at the Hillbilly Think Tank, no, that's not a oxymoron. Don't call me a moron. We live for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Nothing makes life worth living more than being of service to your neighborhood, to your community, to your county, to your state, to your nation. And since I was 18, I've been serving all of those. Well, sadly, news has arrived today that one more Army service member has been killed. That service member passed away in Saudi Arabia, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, when Iran sent one of its weapons in there and it detonated, took out one of our personnel. Now, as yet, as I go on air, Barron Trump has still not gone down to Marine Corps recruiter's office to raise his right hand, swear an oath to protect and defend the United States Constitution from all enemies, foreign and domestic, as I did at age 18. So he's plenty old enough. He's 19. And you can't give me anything about saying, oh, he's too tall. Like I said, I'm 6'5", he's only 6'7". Don't try to give him 2 extra inches like they try to do. He's not 6'9", he's 6'7". Even if he was, doesn't matter. He can get a height waiver. So he needs to get in there, do that. We know he's making money off this war. The higher the oil prices go, the more that $30 million makes him that he used right before the war started. He used $30 million to buy oil. So, yep, it's time for him, time for Don Jr., time for Eric, and even time for Ivanka to go ahead and go down to a recruiter's office. Won't be very far from where they live, and raise their right hands, swear an oath to defend the Constitution, and go get in uniform, and go get in the infantry. Go to the front lines. Prove that your heart is here in defending our Constitution. Now, Daddy couldn't do it because of his bone spurs. And Dr. Oz better not go write them a bone spurs excuse too. We know that Daddy's daddy didn't do it. So, do they have the cojones to join the United States Marine Corps Infantry? That's what I want to see. So, now, still Whiskey Pete Keg's breath. He has not given a clear objective in this war with Iran. We have no more clue of what the end goal is, other than we're waiting for Benjamin Netanyahu to tell us what the end goal is. So Benjamin Netanyahu has not told us yet what the end goal is in this war with Iran. So come on, guys. Tell us what the cost of freedom is for. What is the end goal? What is it that we can say, all right, that will be the victory. That will be our line of demarcation for victory. We don't have it. We still don't have any of the guardians of the pedophile senators or congressmen lining up their children to go down to the recruiter's office to join. We're still waiting. Still don't see it. When are we going to see them down at the recruiting office? there's a shortage of persons joining the military right now. So I'm sure the recruiters would love to have those hundreds, possibly even thousands of new recruits. And we better not see any of them get waivers from Dr. Oz either for bone spurs or whatever they can dream up. I got a waiver for flat feet when I joined, and I did over 20 years of service. Saw war in the first Persian Gulf War, and I was on deployment with the Marines when the attack happened back in 2001. And I was part of the first folks in with the Marines, for the 1st Marine Division to go in first to Pakistan and Afghanistan. So don't need to hear anybody giving excuses for why they can't go. Both of my brothers joined. Every male in my family joined. So we need to see the president's kids going, all of them. We need to see all of the senators and all of the congresspersons' kids lining up at the recruiting office to show us this war means something more than Barron Trump's oil investment, more than a distraction from the Epstein files, because the Epstein class are not joining the military. Never have for the last 50 years, never will. They proudly do not serve. We know that this Dementia Don, Captain Bone Spurs, proudly joked on the Howard Stern show about how his Vietnam was having sex without a condom with as many girls as possible, while everyone else his age was fighting in Vietnam, unless they were part of the Epstein class and got those bone spur deferments. So let's see it. If it wasn't too good for the Prince of Wales to send his kids off to join the military, it's not too good for our American royalty, Barron Trump. He's a prime age to join. All right, who we got on here tonight? Let's see. Welcome, Tom. Thanks, Tom, for being my loyal viewer. Tom says the end goal that they are afraid to share is subjugation of the United States to Putin, because the virulent pus bag occupying the people's White House is Putin's puppet. Yeah, I'll say Putin's bitch. And that's what I talked about last night. We took off the sanctions that we had on Russian oil. We've been preventing Russian oil from traveling anywhere in the world that Russians are trying to sell their oil. And we know that Russia's trading partners in BRICS. BRICS means Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. India has been wanting the many ships that are full of oil that Russia has to sell. They've been wanting them for quite some time now. And so, right at the same time that just a few days ago, the Secretary of Treasury announced that we would lift the sanctions on Russia for 30 days. Who do they sell that oil to? India. And where did they use that money after they sold their oil to India? They used it on Ukraine, and they used their assets, the Russian intelligence assets, to locate U.S. troops and share that information with Iran so Iran could use it against us. And just today, like I said, it was announced that one more American service member is now dead. That's a death toll of 7. More wounded. 7 soldiers, U.S. soldiers, dead in this war with no clear objective. No even clear reason for joining it besides President Netanyahu said we have to. So, at the same time we're doing this, we announced we're bombing in Peru and we did some bombing in Ecuador. And we're looking forward to, in the future, soon, our next war being with Cuba, according to this president. And he's going to send Rubio to negotiate that country's whatever, since I'm sure they won't have an objective once we start something with Cuba. So, what more do we need to see that regardless of what they try to tell us, this is not class warfare that I'm talking about, because this war on the working class, the middle class, has been going on for a long time. The Epstein class against the rest of us. It's no more left against right. It's no more middle class against poor. No, those days are done. We have to look at it square in the face and say, all right, there are two justice systems in this nation, one for the Epstein class and the other for the rest of us. Heck, the tax code has been written so that the Epstein class pay no taxes and the rest of us carry the weight, carry the water for this whole nation. We pay for these military expenditures that are in the billions and trillions. But do we get anything back from it besides me getting to go and get medical care from the VA once I trashed my body in 2 wars and many overseas deployments? Nope. Does the whole United States get guaranteed health care coverage? We got plenty of money to spend on wars without authorization from Congress, and Congress now just looking the other way. What are we getting out of it? Here in Hardin County, are we getting small business grants and loans for veterans that have come back from these previous wars, from the 20-year war that we just barely ended? Are we getting small business loans and grants for veterans here, just handed out like they should be, since they're handing out money for missiles and bombs and combat in a new war? I don't think so. Let's see what Mr. Whiskey Pete has to say about all this.
The U.S. military's ability to communicate and coordinate. All this is happening against the backdrop of that $64 million question. Will there be troops on the ground at any point? Already more than 1,000 people have died in Iran. At least 10 people have been killed in Israel, and 6 United States service members have lost their lives in this war. Here is how Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth addressed the deaths of U.S. troops today.
This is what the fake news misses. We've taken control of Iran's airspace and waterways without boots on the ground. We control their fate. But when a few drones get through or tragic things happen, it's front page news. I get it. The press only wants to make the president look bad, but try for once to report the reality.
Thin skin doesn't get you too far. That was from a briefing he held this morning where he declared that more and larger waves of strikes deeper into Iran are on the horizon, that the United States is accelerating, not decelerating the conflict, and that, quote, we will take all the time we need to make sure that we succeed. Of course, what success looks like is a question that the administration, including Mr. Hegseth, has either failed to or refused to define publicly for the country. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs also told reporters that the U.S. military campaign will shift inland. Donald Trump's war escalating and expanding as his administration is very much sounding defensive and appearing to have no real plan that they're willing to share with the country. This is where we start today. Washington Post reporter John Hudson is here.
All right. So you heard that from Whiskey Pete himself. Reporting on the 7 deaths and those injured is just trying to make the president look bad. You know, the guy who glibly said, oh, many heroes will die. Come on, guys. It's not a thing to be glib about. Let me show you what keeps many of us veterans awake at night. What the face of war is. What is in our dreams at night. So, indulge me.
Pete Hegseth saying our military should kill with no mercy.
America is winning decisively, devastatingly, and without mercy. And as President Trump said, more and larger waves are coming. We are just getting started.
And here's the reality of war.
More than 160 children were killed here on Saturday. The strike hit during the morning session in a primary school in Minab, situated directly next to a major military base.
This isn't cable news, Mr. Secretary. When ignorant blowhards talk like that, innocent people die. Here's Pete Hegseth saying our military.
So, once again, that was coming from one of our elected officials who's actually a Marine Corps veteran. He's the one saying that. So go look up Seth, and you can look up more of what he's got to say. But that is the absolute reality. You want to send more sons and daughters overseas to have nightmares when they come home? For what? Give us the clear objective. We know the president says he wants to be involved in choosing who the next leader of Iran will be. Well, you know what? We've done that before. We've played this game in 1953 when Iran democratically elected a leader that they chose by establishing democracy. We didn't like it. When I say we, I mean U.S. oil conglomerates and British oil conglomerates did not like it. So the CIA put in the Shah of Iran. We gave them a king instead of a democratic leader. And that's what got us into the mess that we're in the 70s, when they overthrew the Shah and put in a theocracy, a religious-based government. That theocracy, this Islamo-fascist government that we're trying to end right now. And that is a good thing. But having no plan for how a successor will come into place that will not be a bad actor, yeah, we should have had no action at all until we had a real plan for how to establish a new government in that country. We've seen this game before in my lifetime. I saw what happened when we went into Iraq and had no clear objective for what we were going to do when we toppled the government, set up the wrong people, and it's in shambles. Same thing in Afghanistan. So what are we going to do now? We should not be doing anything if it's not planned out well and if it's going to cost more lives. That is not something that we need to put up with. American lives are far too valuable. But hey, anything to distract us from the Epstein files. Now, there are Democratic forces in that region, folks who have a society where both men and women are equal. and where they actually have fight in them. And they have the ability to set up a democracy. And that's the Kurds. So the Kurds have already been setting up a strong society up there in northern Iraq, right on the border with Iran. They've said they're ready and willing to go in to Iran. But what does this genius say, Captain Bone Spurs? No, he's not, has no plan to use the Kurds. Oh, why could that be? Oh, yeah, because they're also on the border with Syria. Syria has a leader that until this year was on our most wanted list and had a high cash bounty on his head if anyone captured or killed him, because he was an Al-Qaeda terrorist. But he was invited to the White House just a few months ago with open arms, red carpet. So that leader does not want the Kurds in Syria to have any more power. And if they went into Iran, that would empower them. So we really don't want democratic forces in that part of the world. It's obvious. So we have no clear objective, no end game. We let the Kurds down in the first Gulf War that I was a part of, left them to be slaughtered by the Iraqi government after telling them to get involved. And George Bush let them die. Then, in the most recent conflict in Iraq, they proved to be the most hardy forces, the ones who really knew what democratic, egalitarian society is all about. Like I said, men and women are equal there. Their women fought right in their own strong units and were fierce war fighters, still are. We could unleash that fury into Iran and let a real egalitarian group come in, set up something similar in Iran. But obviously we wouldn't want to do that because we couldn't control that if it's democratic. All right, let's see what else. Who else we got here? We still got Tom. All right, so Tom says, we're talking about royal family joined the military. British royal family have served for generations. The late Queen was in uniform during World War II, and her grandsons served in Afghanistan. Their service may not have been frontline, grunt level, but they were there. And hey, one was a combat pilot, the old Ginger Prince, who's now living in California. All right, Tom also says there's the Just Us system and the Just Us system. So the Justice and the Just Us system. And the Just Us system means, yeah, we're the only ones that are ever punished for crimes. And not even just crimes. You can be punished for letting your kid play outside these days. That's how crazy our justice system has gotten to be. But what do the Epstein class get away with? Everything, anything. And here we go. Created a war to distract us from that. As we know, it's election time, and they're counting on the elections being something that they can control because there's a war going on. We can't let that happen. All right, so what else is going on? Well, it's also been shown that the Iran school strike and bombing was our fault. It was us that did it, even though Whiskey Pete Kegsbreath and our Bone Spurs Captain Bone Spurs, says that it was the Iranians. Yeah, our own U.S. military investigators believe that it is likely that the U.S. forces were responsible for an apparent strike on Iranian girls' school that killed scores of children on Saturday, but have not reached a final conclusion or completed their investigation, two United States officials told Reuters. Again, that's what you saw in the video. And that is what keeps veterans awake at night. Now, I served with some folks in the unit who were, sociopaths, so none of that bothered them. And that's, that's actually a good protectant mechanism for warriors. But for other folks, yeah, that stuff stays with you till you finally take a dirt nap and they put you 6 feet under. We don't need any more kids coming home with that unless we're actually fighting for the United States not to be invaded. And there was no danger of that country invading us. But now what else is happening? This is obviously strengthening Mr. Putin. And so Finland now, for the first time in its history, has declared they will allow nuclear weapons to be deployed in Finland. For 50 years, they haven't allowed that. But they say now they will. They know that they're in danger now, more danger than ever from Russia. Estonia, after having lifted its draft requirements, because they had a requirement for every person of a certain age to join the military and serve a short period of time, they got rid of that, just like we did back in the 70s under Carter. We don't have a mandatory draft anymore. Now Estonia has brought back a mandatory draft after 17 years without one. They recognize they are in dire threat from Russia. If and when Russia is successful in taking over Ukraine, Finland, and Estonia, and all the satellite countries that used to be part of the USSR, they're not willing to get rolled right back into the USSR. Finland barely avoided it after World War II, and they're not interested in it happening now. So that's what we have to think, guys. Every one of you said you voted for MAGA because they were going to prevent a nuclear war. Well, now Finland is so worried they are lifting their ban on nuclear weapons being deployed in their country. And they're allowing it and asking for it to be. They want some there to protect them from the threat that they believe could be imminent from Russia. So we freaked around and we found out. Now what are we going to do? Are we going to allow this regime to cancel our elections? Are we going to allow them to rig our elections? Are we going to vote out the guardians of the pedophile? Vote out the Epstein class. Push them out of our politics. It's high time. We've got to do it. We've got to get rid of a just us system and bring back real justice. Where there is no justice, there should be no peace for the Epstein class. All right, y'all. Remember, here in Kentucky, we know that united we stand, divided we fall. We see it on our Kentucky flag every day. We also know that in order to not be divided, we have to love our neighbors as ourselves. And that means we recognize we are our brother's keeper. We are our sister's keeper. Bless your corazón, which is Espanol for heart. Remember those deployed. Do not forget, we just lost one more of them. That's a total now of 7 deployed service members dead and more wounded. Have a great rest of your Sunday.